Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. One of the things that's always mattered to me since I was a kid is the tackle I use. I take great joy in having really nice tackle, keeping it as good as I can. And I'm not obsessive that way. You know, there's a lot of things I probably don't do that I should. But it's nice to have good tackle, to have a good reel and a good rod. And I always use spinning reels and spinning rods. And part of the reason is that's what I grew up with, but also when I was, and this isn't a poor me talk, but when I was in the Navy, I had a massive brain injury. And so I can't coordinate using a bait caster very well. In fact, not well at all. So I haven't used those. So with spinning reels, there's something there's certain key aspects of a spinning reel that are really important. And you can go into a store and you can handle a spinning reel and it all feels good, looks good, but there's so many things that you can't tell until you go fishing. Now, let me give you an exact example. Last night, and it was last night, I got a new spinning reel. And I bought it a week ago or something, and I wanted to try it out and see how it worked. So I went over to one of my places where I could stand on the shore and cast it out. And I was using a Senko worm, and it was working wonderfully. The reel was smooth. I wasn't getting tangles. And one of the tips to not get tangles, especially if you're using braided line, is to not reel forward after the cast and allow the bail trip to trip the bail over. Do it with your hand. Take your other hand and trip the bail over, something I never did as a kid, and it's taken me a while to make it habitual. But anyway, about, 15 casts in, I went to cast it out as far as I could, and I went forward, and the line snapped, and the bail had tripped over. And I'm thinking, okay, must be my line got caught on a guide or something. So I re-tied another hook on, and I tried again. And a few casts later, the same thing happened again. And this time, I knew that my line was running freely through the guides. Something was causing that bail to trip over when I flicked my wrist forward. And I'm casting hard. I'm throwing out as far as I can, so it's all in the snap of your wrist. And I'm thinking, I can't use this reel. It looks great. It works perfectly. But this happened 4 or 5 times to me, and it made my fishing night impossible. And so I can't tell you what's causing that to do that. I'm not a techno freak, and I don't know the design of reels well enough to be able to pinpoint what is causing that bail to trip. But I'll tell you what I did. I came home and I reeled all the line in. And so there wasn't any line out, and I tried standing in the driveway and trying to cast as if I was casting. The line's not going to go anyplace because it's inside the reel. I opened the bail, and I would yank and just flip my wrist as hard as I could. I couldn't make it happen. I'm thinking, why is it happening? I didn't have a heavy weight on. I just had a weightless hook and a worm. And yet, when I was fishing, it was doing it every time. I haven't discovered the reason, but my point in telling you this is there's so many different features about a reel that until you go out to fish it, you'll never know. Other things about a spinning reel, and I was talking to one of the engineers at one of the reel companies yesterday. I called him. I said, listen, I'm thinking of getting a couple reels. Can you tell me more about them? Is this something that I'm going to be happy with? And of course, they're going to tell me, yeah, you're going to love them because it's their company. But they were explaining, the guy said to me, I'm going to tell you, spinning reels are the most elaborately designed today. The different features within that reel are so technical and so elaborate that there's so many things that can go wrong. And here's some of the things that I want you to be aware of with a spinning reel that can make it ruin your trip or make it work for you. And I don't care how cheap it is or how expensive. Number one is the shape of the bail and the line roller that the line goes through in the bail. That shape can determine whether the line tangles around it or runs freely all the time. When you're reeling in, it can make a difference of whether you get tangles. Number two, the little screw on at the top of your reel that holds your spool on As you click it down, it makes the drag get firmer, or if you loosen it, the drag gets less. So this is something that's real critical. But how it's shaped, how much it lies deep into the reel or lays above it, can determine whether in a windy day your line will tangle around it. These are things that you can't tell until you're fishing. But these different aspects of the reel can make a tremendous difference. Number 3, the construction of the rotor within the reel. A lot of times a reel will be as smooth as silk, but as soon as you have resistance against it, you throw your lure out, your lure has resistance in the water, or you have a fish, all of a sudden that reel is no longer smooth and it's tough to reel in. These are things you can't determine until you start fishing with a reel. So I don't have a solution for you other than be careful when you buy your reel. I do not believe that to have fun in fishing, you need to buy an expensive reel. But you do need to buy one that the bearings are of a good material and they're positioned in the right place in the reel to make it smooth, that it has to cast freely, and that it has to be designed where the line doesn't have spots to tangle around it on a windy day or when you're using really light lures. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.